Good morning, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Thank you so much for joining me. My name's CJ, and in today's live stream, we're going to be taking a look at tonight's NBA playoff slate. We got 3 NBA playoff games going on. We're going to talk about all of them. All right, that's 6 different teams, and that's a whole lot of props for us to discuss. So we'll be taking a look at the PrizePicks board, going over the points, the assists, the rebounds, the PRA, the fantasy score, the three-point makes, whatever you guys want to talk about, I'm here for it. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. My name's CJ. If you haven't been here before, make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure that notifications are turned on. You could do that by going down to the little bell icon next to the subscribe button and clicking that sucker. That way, anytime I go live, you'll be alerted. It's my way of keeping in touch with you whenever there's a new piece of content that drops here on this channel. Also, while you're down there, hit that like button. All the likes make the world go round. You know, my daily goal for these live streams is 99.5 likes. I usually take the over. Listen, we came up short in the last live stream. We did not go over 99.5 likes in the last live stream. Let's try to change that today. Let's go for a strong 100 or more likes on today's live stream. Now, if you don't play on PrizePicks yet, it's a great time to go ahead and get signed up. A 100% deposit match awaits you, up to $100 in fact. So if you want to put in 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, or max it out at 100, they're going to double your money, giving you a dollar for dollar price match on everything you put in the first time you deposit on PrizePicks. So get signed up today. Use promo code Curry. You see it floating above my head. I've also left a link down in the description below. Speaking of the description below, there's links for things like Discord, which is totally free for you to join. There's over 2,000 Discord members in there. We've got things set up to help you with your daily player prop research, like bots. We've got daily insights and different useful information and stats being pumped in thanks to Fansure. So check it out, all right? Join the community, be a part of the player prop movement. Also, Patreon. It's a little late in the month to join Patreon this month, so I would not suggest joining now unless you feel pretty confident that you could win your 20 bucks back in the next 5 days. Otherwise, if you want to join Patreon and be a part of an even better community and exclusive content of like-minded individuals focused on player props, well, you're going to want to wait till May 1st. That's the best time to get the bang for your buck, all right? Wait till May 1st to join Patreon, but links to all that stuff down in the description. Anyway, now that we got those announcements out of the way, let's check in with the chat. I appreciate everybody being here this morning. Chad's in the building, says, good morning, CJ and Patreon gang. Been away for a minute, but we're back. Happy Money Making Monday. Let's get it. Appreciate you, Chad. Thanks for being here. Yeah, we've been starting these at 10 a.m. Eastern time here recently with the MLB season in full swing. You know, we got MLB games in the afternoons, not today, but typically we have those afternoon MLB games that get started at like 1 p.m. Eastern time and stuff like that. So I want to give myself an extra hour, let's just say. So I've been starting these a little bit earlier. Instead of the normal 11 a.m. Eastern time, we've been starting at 10 a.m. to get that extra hour in. Give me a little time to jump off here. You know, if there's any MLB games going on, like I said, in this case, there's not for the afternoon today. Give me some time to put it, you know, some research and stuff like that. Put it all together for the Patreon gang. So Drew Breeze is in the building. Speaking of Patreon gang, he said he had a great weekend, but it feels good to be back in these live streams. Let's get this bread today, gang. I appreciate you being here. Tony Ruiz says, good morning, CJ. It's Money Making Monday. What a great weekend overall with some MLB, some NHL, some UFC, and some NBA wins as a Patreon group. Smash that like button while coming in. Thank you for reminding the people, but he's right. Folks, he's right. He's got a very strong point. We've got people like effing props guy holding things down in the NHL channel. You've got people like Hoodat and Tony holding things down in the NBA channel. You got me doing my best with the MLB props. All right. You got DFSJR and Matt Dog in Discord holding things down for the MMA props. I mean, we got a lot of different stuff going on in the community. So glad to hear that one of our Patreon members here, Mr. Ruiz, had himself a good weekend across multiple sports. I love it. Cash Money Gamers here. Thanks for being here. Sean Vega says, let's go, gang. I'm still in disbelief that KD really might get swept in the first round. Anyways, let's get this money. Yeah, kind of crazy what's happening with KD and that whole Brooklyn Nets squad. LaShonda's in the building. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining. B. Dot, what props y'all got? Well, that's a good question. We'll have to dig into those in just a moment, which we will. We definitely will. Everyday Fantasy says, good morning, peeps. Money Making Monday is in full effect. Chef Curry and the Patreon gang, thank you. If you don't know, this is the place to be above all others. Well, that's high praise coming from my man, Don P111 inside Discord. Thank you so much for leaving those kind words and bringing that positive energy to the live. Rashawn Prather says, what's good, CJ? Hopefully everyone saw some growth this weekend. New day, new opportunities. You are right about that. Ricky Carroll's already liking some Bruce Brown props. How could you not? Bruce Brown's been balling this series. It's been less about KD and Kyrie and more about Brucey B. Jonathan Yadell says, bet for bets yesterday. Hit every single one. Yes, sir. Ready to get some more cash today. Let's go. Love to hear that, Jonathan. I'm glad yesterday was profitable for you. Wesley Winston's in the building. Yo, boss man. What's up with you? David's here saying he's liking some Marcus Smart for points already. And Jeremiah says, it is time to get this money. Hashtag bread time. He needs some bread. Hopefully we put some butter. We slather some butter. Maybe you're more of a jelly or a peanut butter type of guy. We'll put something on that bread for you. We want you to get bread and we want you to get something on top of that bread. Bread on top of bread. So let's get through it. We've got a 7 p.m. tip-off time between the Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets. This game, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, gang. It could be the end for this Brooklyn Nets squad. We thought we were going to see Ben Simmons make his Brooklyn Nets debut in Game 4. Now it sounded like he rolled out of the bed and his back was hurting. He got up on the wrong side of the bed, so we may not see Ben Simmons after all. It sounds like he is not going to play. He is not going to make his Brooklyn Nets debut. So once again, the load will be shouldered by Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and company. Do you think the Brooklyn Nets have what it takes to avoid elimination tonight, to stay alive in this series? Is there a pulse left for this Brooklyn Nets team? You got Steve Nash out there saying all those 40-minute games for Kevin Durant, it's starting to catch up. Kyrie Irving's apparently fasting. I think it's a religious thing. He's fasting. Maybe he doesn't have enough calories and nutrients in his body to be operating at 100%. But it is what it is, right? You know, Brooklyn has no choice. Their backs are against the wall. 220 points between these two teams. Boston looking really strong in this series, up 3-0. It's a 1.5 point spread. Sounds like we're going to get Robert the Time Lord Williams back, though, for Boston, which is good news. Limited minutes, possibly, probably. But Robert Williams, more than likely, probably going to come off the bench. But anyway, it's going to be must-see TV, right? We all want to tune in and see if Kevin Durant, one of the best players, maybe top 5 still, maybe top 3, if he could avoid elimination and keep his team alive. I mean, we're all going to be tuning into that one. The next game that tips off is 8 p.m. Toronto Raptors at the Philadelphia 76ers. Just 210 points between these two teams. A 6.5 point spread. We got Joel Embiid out here with a banged up thumb, apparently. Embiid's possibly, maybe. They're not really saying a whole lot, but might have something torn in his thumb. He's playing through it. He's making the most of it. Has not had a great series. Listen, if you've been taking some unders on Joel Embiid lately, you're probably seeing some green. The unders have been the move for Joel Embiid in this series. It's been his teammates stepping up. Guys like Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, some James Harden, you know. So we'll have to see what happens with Embiid tonight. But nonetheless, Toronto on the other side, Fred VanVleet's questionable. Keep an eye on his injury status. Fred VanVleet exited the last game early. They had just gotten Scotty Barnes back. Then they lose Fred VanVleet. Will VanVleet be in or out? We don't know yet. But OG Anunoby, his points were flying high, and then Scotty Barnes came back in, and it kind of messed things up. It threw off the feng shui of the team, so to speak. OG Anunoby did not have a good game. I had been riding the points prop for him. I decided to get off that train. Once I saw Scotty Barnes was back in the lineup, I said, no, I got to pump the brakes here. Scotty Barnes could throw things off, and boy, was I right. His presence in the starting lineup definitely had an impact on OG Anunoby. Anunoby just didn't shoot well on top of all that. So anyway, that's game 2. And then finally game 3, the Utah Jazz and the Dallas Mavericks. There's already rumblings. There's already whispers that the Utah Jazz might be ready to shake things up. They might be ready to make some trades. I mean, I don't think I ever would expect that Utah would be struggling against Dallas in this series, especially with Luka being out for the first couple of games, right? I did not expect the Utah Jazz to be struggling like they are. I thought they were a better team than that, got to be honest. But such is life, you know? It's been a tough series for the Utah Jazz. Maybe I thought Dallas wasn't all that great. Maybe Dallas is better than I thought they were, with or without Luka. Anyway, 212.5 points between these two teams, 3-point spread. None of these games between Utah and Dallas have been very high scoring. They have been competitive, though. I'll give you that. They've been competitive, not very high scoring. We've seen Donovan Mitchell have a pretty good series from a scoring standpoint. Bojan Bogdanovic, he had himself a pretty good series so far from a scoring standpoint. Jalen Brunson's really helping himself out. I think he's going to get a big contract when that time comes. But yeah, we'll have to see. Dwight Powell made a resurgence with Luka Doncic back in the lineup. For a while there, it looked like Dwight Powell was going to be kind of like Steven Adams, right? Just kind of be antiquated, sort of phased out of the mix. But as soon as Luka came back, you see Dwight Powell start to reemerge, right? So the Luka-Powell connection is very, very real. When Luka's out of the lineup, maybe you take some unders on Powell, and it's more of a Maxi Kleber type of game. When Luka's in the lineup, it helps Powell out quite a bit. Anyway, those are your 3 games. Getting toward the end of these series here. So we'll have to see how things kind of play out tonight. Appreciate everybody being here. I see Anthony Taylor's in the building. Thanks for joining. He said that the Brooklyn Nets are going to win this game and that the NBA wants to make some more money by stretching this series out. He thinks the Nets are going to get some calls. I like that take. That's an interesting take. Could happen. Could very well happen. Durant says, good morning, brother. Let's get this money tonight. Thanks for being here. Double Down University. The fact y'all think the Nets win tonight is hilarious. T-Bone, yo, thanks for being here. Father Luis says, I missed you, CJ Curry. Where you been? I've been in Discord all weekend, my brother. I've been in there helping the folks out. I try to stay off camera, stay off YouTube for the weekend. You know, these live streams can take a lot out of a man. These live streams can take a lot out of a person. So I do them Monday through Friday, typically kind of relax on the weekends and stay more behind the scenes, we'll say. Ricky Carroll's in the building. Shout out to you. Thanks for being here. King United, shout out to you. Thanks for being here as well. All right, let's get on to business. We're going to start things off by looking at points, props, and of course, the player prop tool of choice here. The one, the only props.cash. If you don't use props.cash yet, go ahead and get signed up. Your first month, 25% off when you use code Curry. I've left a link down in the description below for you to check out props.cash. Of course, we've got the NBA playoffs underway. MLB regular season is in full swing. We've got the NHL playoffs right around the corner, so it's a great time to be using props.cash for all your player prop needs. Definitely check it out. So we're going to use it here to first and foremost look at the player prop trends for the points prop category. So we'll be taking a look at who's been hitting, who's been covering their points props at the highest clip over the last 10 games. Starting things off here at the top of the list, we've got Bruce Brown at 14.5 points. He's got an 80% hit rate. Joel Embiid at 27.5 points over the last 10 games has covered in 80% of his games. He's got a really nice hit rate. He's only at 27 right now over on PrizePicks. You got a couple of Utah Jazz players who've been covering their props at a strong hit rate. Mike Conley Jr. at 80%. Rudy Gobert at 13.5 points, also sitting at 80%. From there, you got Tyrese Maxey at 70%. Dorian Finney-Smith at 60%. Pascal Siakam at 23.5 points. He's also sitting at 60%. You got the aforementioned Bogdanovic, who's down to 19.5 points today. I think he was at 20.5, 21.5 the last couple of games. But at 19.5, a little bit higher than where you're going to find him on the sports book. 18.5 points, he's got a 60% hit rate. From there, it's a bunch of guys hitting at 50%, including the likes of Donovan Mitchell, and so on and so forth. We won't go through all those, but let's go ahead and take some of your points props. You guys let me know which points props you want me to take a look at. I already see somebody mentioning Bruce Brown. I'm seeing King United saying Kevin Durant either scores 27 plus points or the Nets lose tonight. Seems pretty cut and dry, plain and simple. Let's take a look at some of these guys. We're going to start it off with Bruce Brown here, as we should, because he's got an 80%. Excuse me. He's got an 80% hit rate at 14.5 points. Once I get these hairballs out, then we can start talking about some player props. Bruce Brown having a fantastic series. Like I said before, it's been less about Kevin Durant and Kyrie. It's definitely been more about these role players. And Bruce Brown, probably the best role player that the Brooklyn Nets have this season, really. Truthfully, he's had a really good season. Over the last 10 games, at 14.5 points, we see he's been covering in 8 out of 10 games. That's 80%. Over that 10-game span, averaging nearly 17 points per game in the last 5 in particular, averaging 18.6. And then against Boston this season, he's played Boston now a total of 6 times. He's covered his prop in 4 out of 6 games, including 2 out of 3 in this series so far. And the last 2 games have been particularly good, 23 points and 26 points. So back-to-back 20-plus point games for Bruce Brown. So I can understand why you folks might be liking some Bruce Brown, averaging over 14 points per game, 14.8 to be exact, versus Boston this season. So we'll jump ahead here. We're going to look at the last 7 games. We're going to take a look at the small forward spot, because that's where Bruce Brown typically slots in at the small forward position. We're going to go find the Boston Celtics. You see over the last 7 games, they're giving up over 23 points per game. So we know the matchup's good for Brown. We've seen him feast on the Boston Celtics the last couple of games. They seem to be really keyed in on Kyrie, really keyed in on Kevin Durant, and they're letting the role players do their thing. That seems to be a sound strategy for Boston so far in this series. So maybe they do it again tonight. Maybe they just let Bruce Brown do what Bruce Brown does, right? And get his buckets, but they kind of try to keep the clamps on both Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. So he's at 14.5. He needs 15 for the over. They're giving up over 23 per game. So we're not really worried about the matchup a whole lot. So let's take a look at a projection here for Bruce Brown. I've got Bruce Brown, not Jaylen Brown, Bruce Brown projected for 14.9 points, which is right about what he has averaged versus the Boston Celtics this season. 14.9, close to 15. It's more than 14.5, which means we should be thinking about leaning toward the over. And then we take a look at the various prop lines. He's at 14.5 out on your favorite sports books. Looks like he's a betting favorite on, at least on DraftKings. And then you're seeing him on FanDuel and PointsBet being bet under. Some of these other sites not really seeing any early action on Bruce Brown at 14.5, but maybe we go back to Bruce Brown here. I don't think Boston's going to change things up a whole lot. I think they're going to continue to do what's been working for them. And I kind of think it's a rinse and repeat type of situation for Bruce Brown at 14.5. Maybe we just go right back to it. So that one's for you, Mr. Father Lewis or Luis. Chad Norton's mentioning Gary Trent Jr. Let's take a look at Gary Trent Jr. real quick. Trent Jr. had himself quite a game the last time these two teams took the floor. Last couple of games, in fact, have been pretty good for Mr. Gary Trent Jr. So we're not sure if Fred VanVleet's going to play or not. I know Fred VanVleet left the game early. I want to take a look at something real quick. I want to look at this season, games without Fred VanVleet, and see if Gary Trent Jr. scores better or worse without Fred VanVleet. What's the hit rates looking like in games without Fred VanVleet, just in case he can't go tonight, just in case. So we've got 16 games in which Gary Trent Jr. has played in this season without Fred VanVleet. And in those games, at 18.5 points, he's covered this point prop in 10 out of 16. So a 63% hit rate's not too shabby. I mean, he's got some 32, 42 point games in his game log from earlier in the season, but still, I mean, he's got some really crazy potential if Fred VanVleet ends up sitting out. All right, so we'll put Fred VanVleet back in the mix. We'll take a look at just the last 10 games for Gary Trent Jr. We bump him down to 18.5 to make sure that he's in line with his prop line over on PrizePicks. At 18.5 points, you see he's got a 50% hit rate over the last 10 games. Not great, not great. But when we look at the last 5 games, especially games in this series here, which are, these 4 games, the first 2, we knew he was battling a sickness, an illness of some sort. So he wasn't quite himself, but something happens here on 420. Maybe he got into the devil's lettuce before the game, and that was the secret to success, because he came out and put up 24 points against Philadelphia on 420. All right, then he ran it back. Maybe he had a little bit of that lettuce left over from the day before, the game before. Comes back and puts up another 24 points on top of the Philadelphia 76ers. So he's now got back-to-back, he's strung together back-to-back 24-point games against Philadelphia. Maybe he runs it back again tonight. Hopefully, if he's on that devil's lettuce, he saved a little bit for tonight's game. Popeye has his spinach. Gary Trent Jr., maybe he's got his own secret antidote, right, for success. Anyway, things are looking pretty good here lately for Gary Trent Jr. He has gone over 18.5 in back-to-back games against this Sixer squad. All right, so we'll jump ahead here. Gary Trent Jr. is going to spend some time at shooting guard. Heck, he might even spend some time at point guard. If Fred VanVleet doesn't go, it'll be Malachi Flynn, most likely starting at point guard. But Gary Trent Jr. will probably take on more ball handling duties, get more usage, things like that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the points per game allowed by the Philadelphia 76ers over the last 7 games. You can see they're giving up a healthy 22.29. Let's call it 22.3 points per game. He needs 19. They're giving up over 22. You can kind of see where they rank, just outside the top 10. Most points allowed in the last 7 games to shooting guards. So I'm not really worried about the matchup. Not really worried about Philadelphia all that much. We've seen him put together 2 very strong scoring nights against this 76er squad. As far as the projection goes, I got him projected for 20.5 points. That's 2 points more than his prop line at 18.5. At 18.5, we are getting a softer line because we've got some sports books like a FanDuel, for instance, that have him up at 19.5. So we're getting the softer line at 18.5. Now, it's kind of early, so some of these sports books, we're seeing some action on the over, minus 122. Site like PointsBet, not seeing any action on this prop. DraftKings, a little bit of action on the under at 18.5 points. So kind of early still, but I guess my early read would be we should probably be thinking about going back over on Gary Trent Jr. So there you go. Gary Trent Jr. Let's see what else we've got here. I see Everyday Fantasy's talking about some Danny Green at 7.5 points. He thinks the championship pedigree will be coming out for a guy like Danny Green tonight. Not sure what that means. Championship pedigree. I mean, yeah, he's got championships, but you think tonight he just steps up in a big moment? Is that kind of what we're thinking? Let's talk Danny Green. Listen, taking the unders on these superstars and taking the overs on some of these role players has been working out a lot in these NBA playoffs. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with it, but it seems like a lot of these superstars, your Karl Anthony Towns, your Joel Embiids, your Kevin Durant, your Kyrie Irving, taking the under on a lot of these guys has been working out more than the overs. And then you get little role players like Danny Green, who seem to be going over a lot of their props. JaVale McGee's another one. His PRA last night, money. Once again, JaVale McGee's PRA, put it on your short list of just go-to plays. All right? He keeps getting it done. So some of these role players, these backup, these bench guys, they keep hitting their props, and the superstars, for whatever reason, are struggling so far in this early playoff situation. Anyway, Danny Green is the guy who Everyday Fantasy wants to talk about. He's 4 for his last 10, just 40%, covering 7.5 points. We look at what he's done against Toronto. Once upon a time, Danny Green was a Raptor. He was a Raptor himself. He's played Toronto this season now a total of 7 times. He's gone over in 3 out of 7. Not a great hit rate at 43%. Had 18 back on April 7th, 11 April 18th in Game 2 of this series. He had 9 in Game 3 of this series. Just 6 in the last game. So in this series so far, he's 50%. He's 2 for 4. Now, Danny Green's pretty much your typical 3-and-D type of player. So if he knocks down a couple of threes, he's already at 6 points, right? Then maybe he finds himself getting to the free throw line, gets himself a layup or something along those lines. You know, I could see a path to where Danny Green gets 8 points tonight. I could see it happening. He's done it before. Let's take a look at these games so far in this series, all right? Because he played 46 minutes on 420. 46 minutes. 22 in Game 1, 37 in Game 2, 46 in Game 3, and then 27 in Game 4. So, I mean, it's all about the minutes, right? If he's out on the floor for 30-plus minutes, then I like him at 8 points. I like him to get the 8 points. But if he's out there for like 22, 27, it might be kind of tough, right? Those are the games that he missed. 2 points in that one and 6 points in the last one. So we need Danny Green to play about 30 minutes tonight. Let me just take a look at something here. Let me take a look at a minutes projection. I do have him projected to play 30 minutes tonight. So I think there's a shot. There's a shot here, a chance for Danny Green to get there. Shooting guards against this Toronto Raptors squad over the last 7 games. Raptors are giving up about 22 per game. Danny Green, you know, you call him a shooting guard, small forward. We'll take a look at both. He only needs 8 points. They're giving up about 22 per game. We look at the small forward spot. Toronto over the last 7 games, they're giving up 12.6 points. Very stingy, very greedy team when it comes to points allowed over the last 7 games to the small forward position. But again, we're talking about 8 points here. We're not talking about 28 points. He needs 8 points. So we'll jump ahead here. We'll pull a projection up for Daniel Green, former UNC Tar Heel. He's getting up there in years, folks. He's getting up there in age. But Danny Green still has an opportunity to get this done here. 7.5 points. He's projected for 9.3. We're seeing him being bet over on some sites, minus 125, being bet under on some other sites at minus 112. Most of the sites, I would say, consensus, most of the sites are taking the over on Danny Green at 7.5 points. So if you want to go there, Mr. Everyday Fantasy, I can't be mad at that. I can't fault you for that. Durant is saying that Fred VanVleet is ruled out. That's for sure. That's for certain. No Fred VanVleet for sure. I hope you're right. Yeah, Paid Bando saying that Danny Green had a lot of opportunities last game. He just couldn't make his open shots. Yeah, he's going to have to be efficient because he's not going to be a high volume guy, right? Embiid and Harden and Maxey and Harris, like these guys are going to eat up the majority of the shots. So when Danny Green touches the ball, when he lets the shots fly, he's going to have to knock them down. He's going to have to knock down those shots. I see someone mentioning Rudy Gobert. It's our man, Father Luis. He wants to go under Rudy Gobert's points at 13.5 tonight. Let's take a look at the Stifle Tower. Appreciate everybody being here this morning. Hit that like button if you're finding any of this player prop research helpful, useful, beneficial in any kind of way. Now, I think you're talking about going under on Rudy Gobert's points. We're going to take a look at the last 10 games. Gobert, 80% hit rate, 8 out of 10. He's hit the over in 8 out of 10. Now, against Dallas this season, at 13.5 points, a little bit tougher for him against the Mavs, but things have looked a lot better over the last 2 games. In Utah, Rudy Gobert does a lot better. Look at these home games against the Dallas Mavericks this season. When he plays in Utah, he's 3 for 4 against Dallas. 75% hit rate, and he's averaging a healthy little 14 points per game. Where when you look at the road games against Dallas at 13.5 points, he does not like playing in Texas for whatever reason. He has gone under 13.5 points in all 3 games. So he does do a better job at scoring at home than he does on the road. Now tonight, they're playing in Dallas. They are playing in Dallas. So if you wanted to go under on Rudy Gobert at 13.5 points, this would be the prime time to do that, being that they're back in Dallas tonight. 12, 5, and 8 against Dallas this season, averaging just 8.3 points per game, playing in the great state of Texas. So if you want to take a shot on the under at Rudy Gobert and his points, tonight might be the night to do that. Taking a look at this Dallas Mavericks defense in the last 7 games, how many points are they giving up to centers? Just 18.5. It is the 7th fewest points allowed in the NBA in the last 7 games. Now you got to remember that a lot of these teams are out of the playoffs. So, these DVP charts probably a little bit skewed, a little bit wonky. But nonetheless, Dallas over the last 7 games, defending the center position pretty well in terms of points allowed. Let's get you a projection on Rudy Gobert. 16.3 is his projected point output, according to the Fantasy Labs, Action Labs projections. At 13.5, though, we're seeing the betting public take the under on Gobert. On most sites, he is a slight betting favorite to go under at 13.5. So yeah, you might want to consider going under on Rudy Gobert now that he's no longer in Utah, now that he's actually in the Lone Star State. All right. Daniel Cruz saying that Fred VanVleet is out. It is confirmed. It is official. We will not have Fred VanVleet tonight. Very good. Appreciate that. Love it. Thanks for the news. Good stuff. Good stuff. Drew Brees is wanting to talk some Jason Tatum points at 29.5. So you're basically betting on Jason Tatum to go for 30 points tonight? You think he's going to have a 30-point game tonight? Let's take a look at that. So far, Tatum having himself a pretty strong series, right? Pretty strong series overall. Looking at the last 10 games, we got to bump him down from 31.5 down to 29.5. He's at 31.5 on default on Props.Cash. So remember on Props.Cash to adjust the lines accordingly so that they match whatever site you're playing on. In this case, we're talking PrizePicks. So Tatum at 29.5 points. He's 5 out of his last 10 games. Just a 50% hit rate against Brooklyn this season. At 29.5, he's hit the over in 57% of his games, which doesn't sound great. But when you look at the last 5 games versus Brooklyn, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he's covered in 4 out of 5. Actually got an 80% hit rate versus Brooklyn. Now he's doing it both at Brooklyn and in Boston. So he's not really, one of these guys like Gobert who seemingly falls off a cliff when he goes and plays on the road against a Brooklyn Nets squad. I mean, he had 30 at Brooklyn back in February. He had 39 at Brooklyn back in April. And then 54 in Boston, 31 in Boston. So he could get it done at home or on the road. Tonight, he is on the road. So, we could take a quick look at these splits. Home games versus the Brooklyn Nets, 2 for 4. Away games versus the Brooklyn Nets, 2 for 3. So, pretty decent hit rates either which way. Taking a look at the matchup here. Tatum going to be at the small forward spot. Brooklyn giving up about 25 points per game to opposing small forwards. The average is below his prop line of 29.5, but we know that Jason Tatum is an above average type of scorer at the small forward position, so I'm not too worried about that number being just about 25 points. As far as the projection goes on Jason Tatum, I got him projected for 33 big points. We're getting quite a hefty discount right now on Tatum's points at 29.5. Why do I say we're getting a discount? Well, there's value here. Why do I say there's value? Well, when you look at the prop line of 29.5 on Jason Tatum on PrizePicks, and then you go and compare to all the sports books out there, they've all got him at 31.5. That is a difference of 2 points, meaning there's value on this prop at 29.5. So if you wanted to take the over at 29.5, looking like a good move. You're getting a discount, so to speak, versus the sports books. Soft line of 29.5 when you compare to the 31.5 that you're getting out on all the different sports books. Now, at 31.5, it's not like they're betting the over. They're betting the under, so they expect, the betting public expects him to stay under 32 points tonight, going for 31 points or less. But he can go for 31. He could go for 30 even. If we take the over at 29.5, we're good. If he scores 30, 31, we're fine. We don't need him to go for 32. So definitely getting some value on this prop at just 29.5. Duncan, shout out to you. Thanks for being here. Agent Zero saying, I like Jaylen Brown, 24.5 points. What do you think? In his career, he scored one time over 24.5 points. It looks good. Not quite sure I understand what you mean there. Are you liking the under on Jaylen Brown? Is that what you're saying? I think that might be what you're trying to get at. Possibly the under. Let's talk about, we talked Jason Tatum just now. We're going to talk about Jaylen Brown now. We're getting Jaylen Brown at 23.5 points. So wherever you're playing, Agent Zero, at 24.5 points, maybe the under is the better play. But at 23.5 on PrizePicks, we might have a tougher decision on our hands here. Might be a little bit of a closer call to take the under on Jaylen Brown at just 23.5. Let's look at it, though. We'll dial everything back in here using props.cash. 23.5 points. 50% hit rate. I mean, look at this. It's like somebody drew a line right down the middle of his last 10 game logs. It's like a tale of two halves, right? The first 5 games in his last 10, really green. Really, really green. But then you look at the last 5 games, all red. Green mean good. Red mean bad. So in this case, the last 5 games have not been good to Jaylen Brown. Let's look at those last 5. Now, these are not all against Brooklyn. Got a couple of regular season games there against Milwaukee, against Memphis, 22 and 18 in those. But since the playoffs have started here, against this Brooklyn Nets squad, 23, 22, and 23. So he's flirting. He's flirting with the 23 to 24 range, right? Coming real close, 23, 22, and 23. Close but no cigar. Has not topped that yet. Let's take a look at his matchups against the Brooklyn Nets this season. He's played the Nets now a total of 7 games. He is 0 for 7 at going over 23.5 points. Again, he's come dangerously close in some of these games, especially these recent games with 23 and 2 out of the last 3 playoff games against the Brooklyn Nets. So do we think he finally punches through, gets over 23.5? Or in the case of Agent Zero, he's getting him at 24.5 points. Maybe he punches through and finds himself at 25 points. I mean, he hasn't done it yet. He's averaging 20.3 points against Brooklyn. Do we just keep smashing the under on Jaylen Brown here? Do we just keep riding the under? Thinking Jaylen Brown not going to find the 24 or 25 point mark for the 8th straight meeting against this Brooklyn Nets squad? It's looking pretty good. Shooting guards against the Brooklyn Nets over the last 7 games. Brooklyn is giving up a healthy 22.68 points, meaning Jaylen Brown's going to have to find every single point that the Brooklyn Nets allow to shooting guards and then some. It's kind of asking a lot, right? There's other shooting guards on this Boston Celtics squad. I don't know that Jaylen Brown's going to find every single point that they give up on average to shooting guards. Maybe it's another under for him. Maybe he has another 20 to 23 point game in him. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Only time will tell. We know nothing. We're only speculating. We're only doing our best educated guesses. But Jaylen Brown's projected for 27.7 points. He is at 24.5 out on all sports books. So we are getting a softer line at 23.5. In this case, we don't want a softer line. We wish this line was at 24.5. We'd have an easier decision on our hands, right? We'd have a much easier time hitting the under at 24.5 than we would at 23.5. Still doable, still possible he stays under at 23.5 points. But there isn't any value in this prop, in other words. So if you're getting him at 24.5 somewhere, I'd say lean toward the under. At 23.5, I'd say, think twice. You may not feel so comfortable. Yeah, Frank Thanks for joining us, Mr. Frank Kutcher. We did talk about Bruce Brown's points, and I think the over's looking like the way to go. Fume, you're asking, do I think that they'll ever add first half props? Knowing PrizePicks, like I know them, playing all season long on Prize, we will get first half at some point. We will get first half at some point. Not just yet. You might have to wait on it. Good morning, Chris Dowski. Thanks for joining. Thank you for being here. Appreciate Shaquan Moore for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for being here. What's up, Kyle? Shout out to Lord De Niro. Thanks for being here. Another one of our Patreon members. Smash that like button, Mr. De Niro. I like that. Jonathan, you're talking about some Reggie Bullock over 10.5 points. I think my man Don P also was liking the over on Reggie Bullock at 10.5 points. So let's take a look at Reggie Bullock's point prop. Reggie Bullock, kind of like your, fourth option, something along those lines for the Dallas Mavericks at 10.5 points. But he's 4 for 4 this series, as first mentioned by my man Everyday Fantasy. So let's pull him up here. Reggie Bullock, see what he's been up to. You know, he's kind of your 3-point specialist, right? That's kind of what he does. He kind of sits out there at the 3-point line, likes taking the 3-pointers. At 10.5 points, he's 5 out of his last 10. But where things really start to get sweet here for Reggie Bullock is at the start of this series against the Jazz, man. He's got 15 in game 1, 11 in game 2, 12 in game 3, 11 in game 4. So it could be a sweat. Could very well be a sweat. The only one where it was kind of sweat-free might have been April 16th, the first game of the series. But since then, right around 11, 12 points per game. So he's limping over, barely getting over that 10.5, but he keeps getting it done. 4 out of his last 4, 100% in this series. Against Utah this season, he has now played the Jazz a total of 7 times. He has covered in 5 out of 7. That's a strong hit rate at 71%. And he's not really shown, like our man Rudy Gobert, any type of home road split type of thing, you know. I mean, he hit at home on March 27th with 23. He hit it home in game 1 with 15. He hit it home with 11 in game 2. So he's getting it done at home and on the road. That's the point, right? So we'll jump ahead here. Let's take a look at the small forward spot. I think that's where Reggie Bullock is probably the best fit. That's where I would say he spends most of his time. The Utah Jazz, tough team defensively. They're giving up 16.5 points. That's the 3rd fewest points per game to the small forward position in the last 7 games. But again, he doesn't need 20.5 points. He's at 10.5 points. He needs 11 points, not 21 points. So needs 11. They're giving up over 16 per game. Definitely doable, as we've seen. He's done it 4 times already. So now it's just a matter of, you know, will he keep the streak going? He's projected for 12.6 points tonight at 10.5 points, like we're getting him at on PrizePicks, which is a softer number. He is a betting favorite to go over at -122. At 11.5, which is where you're finding him on the majority of the sports books, have him at 11.5. Betting favorite to go under. -125, -145, -148. So, yeah, Reggie Bullock looking pretty good here. I think we go back to it at 10.5 until it lets us down. And, you know, it hasn't yet. 4 for 4. He's back in Dallas tonight. So there's that. Yeah, Lord De Niro, we talked Gary Trent Jr. points. We looked at that. Got a pretty nice hit rate when Fred VanVleet's out of the lineup. So that one's not looking too bad. If you want to go back to Gary Trent Jr. at just 18.5. Anyway, I think that's about it for points, man. We've looked at quite a few different ones, and I don't see any others that are popping out here in the chat. You guys are ready to move on and talk some other props from what it looks like. So let's do that. Let's talk about some assist props. You guys let me know which assist props are standing out to you. Is there any ones in particular that you're liking more than the other? I'm going to take a quick little water break. While I'm doing that, you can assist me in this case by hitting the like button. Let's try to go for more than 99.5 likes. Run the likes up. Smash that thumbs up button to drop a like if you're picking up anything that I'm putting down on today's live stream. Appreciate everybody joining me this morning. Let's take a look at these assist props, the highest hitters. Jaylen Brown leading the way at 3.5 assists, 80% hit rate. We're getting him at 4 assists over on PrizePicks. All right, his teammate Jason Tatum is still at 5.5 assists. He's also hitting at an 80% hit rate. We got Kyrie Irving at 5.5, 70% hit rate for him. We've got the beard himself, Mr. James Harden, at 9.5 assists, hitting at 70%. We got his teammate Joel Embiid at 2.5 assists, got a 60% hit rate, but we're getting Embiid at 3 assists, not 2.5. So if you're thinking about taking the over at 2.5, well, there's a chance here at 3 that he pushes. Another 76er that's hitting his assist prop at a pretty good clip. Tyrese Maxey at 3.5 assists, got a 60% hit rate for him. KD, Mr. Kevin Durant, at 6.5 assists, has a 60% hit rate. We're getting him at 6 today on PrizePicks. And then from there, it kind of gets ugly. What I mean by ugly is you're talking about guys at a 50% hit rate. Dudes like Brucey B, Mr. Bruce Brown. You got Michael Conley Jr. at 4.5 assists. He's down there at 50%. Pascal Siakam, 5.5 assists. He's at 50%. Donovan Mitchell, 50%. Tobias Harris, 50%. Gary Trent Jr., also 50%. He's not up on the PrizePicks board, but yeah, there you go. A lot of 50% hitters. So which assist props do you guys want to discuss? I know we looked at Pascal Siakam. I see a lot of you guys mentioning Siakam. 6 Deep's liking some Siakam without Van Vliet. Sean Vega's liking Siakam without Fred Van Vliet. We'll get to those rebounds, Trade Prince. We're talking assists. We'll get to rebounds next, though. But yes, from the looks of things, Pascal Siakam's going to be without Fred Van Vliet tonight. Now, I know in the past, Siakam's assists without Scotty Barnes have been really good, but let's take a look and see what happens here with these Toronto Raptors when Fred Van Vliet's out. When it comes to the assist category. I gotta spell Siakam's name right in order for us to be able to look at his props. So there we go. All right, so he's at 40% this season. Siakam at 5.5 assists at 40%. When we take Fred Van Vliet out of the mix, let's see what happens here. Does the 40% get any better? It does. It improves pretty significantly. A 27% difference versus his season hit rate of 40%. So he's now at 67%. And you're seeing all of his averages here in the green. Meaning versus the 5.5, he's averaging 6.5 this season without Van Vliet, 6 assists in his last 10 without Van Vliet, 7 in his last 5 without FVV. And then against Philadelphia this season, 8.3 without Van Vliet. So we're seeing definitely a lot more green than we are red for Pascal Siakam at 5.5 dimes. 67% hit rate's not terrible. He's played Philadelphia 3 times this season without Fred Van Vliet. Hit the over pretty easily back in December. Then he would have been death by hook in March. Finished with 5 assists. And then most recently, April 7th without Van Vliet, 12 assists. So he's had some pretty high ceiling type of games here when it comes to the assist department. 8 and 12. And then if 5's going to be his floor, I feel pretty good about taking a shot on the over. So 5 seems to be his floor, 12 the ceiling in 3 matchups against Philadelphia without Fred Van Vliet. All right, let's throw Fred Van Vliet back into the player pool here and then just take a look at what Siakam has done in games against Philadelphia this season. He's played Philadelphia now a total of 7 times. He's had 8, 12, and 7 against Philly. Comes very close in a lot of these games here. I mean, 4 is his floor. Had some 5s, lots of 5s in here. And then we talked about his ceiling being 12. So he's always going to be in the hunt. with or without Fred VanVleet, to hit the over at 5.5 assists. So I think, yeah, we could probably take a shot here on Pascal Siakam going over his assist at just 5.5. Siakam, kind of your power forward. I guess we'll call him power forward. Sometimes he plays, center when the Raps go small ball, but Philadelphia has given up about 3.3 assists to power forwards, which the number doesn't sound like a lot, but where they rank is toward the top, definitely closer to the top than the bottom. And then we've seen, Siakam's historical matchups versus Philadelphia. He's done fine, so we're not really worried about him too much. Siakam's projection, 5.8. That's more than 5.5. At 5.5, though, we're seeing him being bet under. Looks like PrizePicks just blessed us with some more props. Shout out to PrizePicks. Siakam at 5.5 assists, though, is a betting favorite to go under on a site like DraftKings Sportsbook, minus 130. But we're seeing him being bet over on some of these other sports books like Parks and Bet Rivers. So kind of weird right now. I mean, some of these sports books like FanDuel, BetMGM, they don't even have an assist prop lineup for Pascal Siakam just yet. But yeah, I think we take a shot on Pascal Siakam. Looking pretty decent, right? Let's see what other assist props you guys want to talk about here. I see my man Everyday Fantasy's bringing another one to us. He's talking about Bojan Bogdanovic at 1.5 assists, 3 for 4 this series, 75% hit rate. Let's take a look at Bogdanovic. We've been taking the Bogdanovic points. At least some of us have. He keeps coming through. He keeps coming through in the points department. But what's he been doing in the assist department? By default, on Props.Cash, he's at 2.5. Remember to bump him down to 1.5. When you do that, things get very green very quickly. At 1.5 assists, he's hit the over in 7 out of his last 10 games. Versus Dallas this season at 1.5. He's hit the over in 4 out of 7, 57% hit rate. He's doing it both at Dallas and at Utah. So not really worried about him playing on the road tonight. Not too concerning. In this series, he has hit the over in 3 out of 4, as my man Everyday Fantasy has said. So that's a 75% hit rate. We like 75% hit rates. We take 75% hit rates all day long, right? I think we do. Now, when it comes to the matchup, Dallas against small forwards and assists allowed, Dallas has given up 2.9. Not a whole lot. Nearly 3 per game. He needs just 2. So we're okay with that. Let them be the 4th toughest matchup for small forwards and assists. Let them be that. They're giving up 2.9 per game, almost 3. He needs 2. I think it's doable. We've seen him do it. It can definitely be done. It can be done. As far as the projection goes, I got it projected for 2.3. That is more than 1.5. He is a betting favorite, minus 135 to go over his 1.5 assist prop. Yeah, Mo, we're going 10 a.m. from here on out. 10 a.m. start time from here on out. Make sure that notifications are turned on, Mo, so that you know. Let's see. So a lot of Siakam assists. I think we talked about him. Jeremiah's liking some Jason Tatum. Somebody liked the over on Tatum's points at 29.5. We looked into that one. Looked pretty decent. His prop line of 5.5 assists has been hitting very well, in fact. So let's look at Jason Tatum for assists. And if you like the points and assists, maybe you consider taking his PRA. Could always be a PRA option if you're liking him to go over in multiple prop categories. Anyway, though, Jason Tatum, 8 out of his last 10 games, he's hit the over, averaging a healthy 6.3 assists in that 10-game window. We look at the last 5 games, he's averaging 7 assists, 80% hit rate, 4 out of his last 5, looking very healthy indeed. Against Brooklyn this season, he has now played the Nets a total of 7 times, has hit the over in just 3 out of 7 games. But more importantly, he has hit the over in every single game of this playoff series. He is now 3 for 3. And he's not just barely limping over in most of these games at 6 assists. I mean, he's got 8, 10 type of assist upside here. So 3 for 3 against Brooklyn. A floor of 6 so far. Ceiling of 10. I don't mind you going back to Jason Tatum. I don't mind it. Small forwards against this Brooklyn Nets team. Well, the Nets are giving up the most assists per game in the last 7 games to small forwards at 7.8 per game. Very healthy number. He needs 6. They're giving up almost 8 per game. So yeah. Jason Tatum's assists definitely going to be in play. He's projected for 5.6, which is more than 5.5. He's being bet over at minus 140, 148, 135. So yeah, I think Tatum's assist is a good look. Tatum, Siakam, looking pretty good so far. Heck, throw Bogdanovich in there too at 1.5. My man Tony Ruiz, he's liking some Bruce Brown. So we talked Bruce Brown for 14.5 points. The over on his points looking kind of healthy, looking kind of nice, juicy. Maybe we go Juicy Brucey Brown for the over at 3 assists instead of the points. I mean, shoot, maybe he does both, right? We know Bruce Brown's PRA has been a thing of beauty for us this season. We've been taking the over down the stretch of the regular season for Bruce Brown. We've been taking the over on his PRA, so he could very well hit the points. He could very well hit the assists too. I'm not saying that one's right and one's wrong. I'm saying maybe both of them are in play. When we look at the assists for Bruce Brown here, the last 10 games, he's had at least 3 assists in 9 out of 10. 90%. I feel pretty good about taking my chances on the over at 3 assists at 9 out of 10. Because more often than not, he's hitting the over. So yeah, I would take the over at 3. Realize there's a chance, a very real chance, possibility that it could end up in a tie, aka a push. But he's hit 4, 5, 8, 8, 4. You know, he's gone over in a lot of these games. So I would be leaning toward the over on 3, of course. Of course we would. Now against Boston this season, he has faced the Celtics 6 times. He has hit 3 or more assists in 4 out of 6. So that's looking nice. 67%. I'll take it. You know, I'll take a shot on that. As far as Boston in assists allowed, they're giving up over 5 per game to opposing small forwards. That does put him in the 6th spot as far as most assists allowed per game to small forwards. So the average is looking good as well. They're giving up over 5. He needs just 3, but we're hoping for 4. So Bruce Brown's in a good spot there. He's also projected for 3.6. Now, 3.5, we're seeing big betting odds on the under at 3.5. But we're getting him at 3. So at 3, we take the over. Being that he's projected for 3.6. Maybe it ties. If it does, so what? Oh well. You know? There you go. I like it. I think Bruce Brown's a fine play. Over 3 assists. Gabriel saying that he's liking some James Harden assists at 9.5. Yeah, I mean, got to think back toward the end of the regular season. I mean, we were seeing Harden at 11 assists, at 10.5. So when we're getting him at 9.5, I think, you know, we've always got to at least consider James Harden at 9.5, right? He's obviously got major assist potential, major assist upside playing in this Philadelphia 76ers offense. The last 10 games for Harden, 7 of 10. I know his assists have been down a little bit in this series. I mean, he started off game 1 with a bang with 14 assists, but then he came all the way down to 6. Popped back up to 10. He had 9 in the last one, so he's going to be in the hunt for 10 or more assists on any given night. But yeah, the last 10 games, 7 for 10, 70% hit rate. Against Toronto this season, at 9.5, he's hit the over in 3 of 7. 43% hit rate. Since joining the Philadelphia 76ers, he's 3 for 6, or 50% against Toronto. But, you know, a floor of 6, a ceiling of 15. It's doable. It's doable for Harden. Point guards against the Toronto Raptors. Raptors are giving up over 11 dimes per game to point guards. So again, they're giving up a healthy amount of assists per game. I think it's always going to be one of those props that we should consider. At a projection of 11.1, that's obviously a lot more than 9.5. And then we're seeing him as a betting favorite over 9.5 assists, minus 135, minus 140, minus 134. So yes, James Harden over a 9.5 assists will definitely be worth taking in some of your entries. Probably wouldn't put him in every single entry. In fact, I wouldn't recommend you put a single player or a single player prop in all of your entries. You got things like injuries to worry about, foul trouble to worry about. Guys could get ejected. I mean, it could just be an off night. So I wouldn't tell you to put 100% of any player or any single player prop in any of your lineups. You don't want to have 100% exposure to anyone or any prop. But yes, James Harden at 9.5 assists. Definitely going to be probably in some entries tonight, right? Wouldn't you think? All right, let's move on from assists. Let's talk some rebounds. I think we've hammered assists pretty well. We've talked about some of the big ones, the major players in the assist game. Let's talk about some of these rebound props. See what we got going on. Let me know if you got any rebound props you want me to take a look at. Starting things off here with Joel Embiid at 12.5 rebounds. He's leading the way with a 70% hit rate. Rudy Gobert, 14.5 rebounds. He's got himself a 60% hit rate. Bruce Brown, his name just seems to keep popping back up. He's having himself a great series against Boston at 6.5 rebounds. He's got a 60% hit rate. Pascal Siakam at 8.5, 60% hit rate. From there, the rest of these guys are hitting at a 50% clip. That includes Royce O'Neal, Bogdanovich, Jaylen Brown, Danny Green, Kyrie Irving, all hitting at 50%. Donovan Mitchell, 50%. And then it gets down to the 40s after that. First rebound prop you guys want to look at is Tobias Harris. Well, Harris did not make the cut as far as one of the high hitting props of the day. But you all are saying Harris for sure. Kyle saying for sure Tobias Harris. Are we still talking rebounds? I think we're still talking rebounds. Let's go rebounds. Let's look at Tobias Harris rebounds. I think that's what you guys are mentioning with Tobias Harris. You guys wanting to take the over or the under on Harris? Kyle saying over for sure. All right, we'll look at it. We will definitely look at this one. Now, by default, 8.5 is the number you're going to get him at on Props.Cash. Of course, bump him down to 7.5. But even when we do, we don't really see a significant difference in terms of hit rate. He stays at a 30% hit rate in his last 10 games. So, yeah, to close out the regular season, not very good there. I mean, he had 7 games straight where he went under 7.5 rebounds. Now, we look at the last 5 games, things improve, especially in the last 3. He's pulled in 10, 12, and 11 boards in 3 straight games in this series against Toronto. So far in this series against the Raptors, he is 3 for 4 now, 75% hit rate. You guys think he is going to continue his high rebounding ways tonight? That's what it seems like you're saying. He's faced the Raptors a total of 8 times this season. He has gone over in just 4 of 8, so 50% hit rate. So this guy has turned into freaking Dennis Rodman over the last 3 games. Out of nowhere, seemingly out of nowhere, Tobias Harris has stepped up and really been crashing the glass. Let's take a look at the last 7 games. Toronto, rebounds allowed to power forwards. They're giving up a healthy number at 9.8. Nearly 10. He needs to find 8. I think obviously it's doable. We've seen the upside for Tobias Harris in the last 3 games. Definitely know that it's doable. As far as the projection goes, he is projected for 7.8. Guys, right now, huge action on the over at 7.5. I mean, minus 155 on DraftKings, minus 190 to go over 7.5 on PointsBet. He is also posted at 8.5, meaning some of these sports books, some of these betting sites think that 8 to 9 rebounds is the outcome for Tobias Harris. So 7.5 may be too low with the fact that the public's snatching it up over 7.5. And the fact that some of these other books have him listed at 8.5. So yeah, he might be getting bumped up. You're right. Lord De Niro, he might be getting bumped up to a smooth 8. A smooth 8. Let's see here. Boop, 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 boop. Royce O'Neal at 4.5 rebounds. 4.5 rebounds. You want to go over. He's gone over in 3 out of 4 games so far. Yeah, I think I took Royce O'Neal over rebounds in the game where I ended up losing to the hook. Royce O'Neal sitting at 4.5 going up against Dallas. Let's see what we can expect, hopefully, out of Royce O'Neal tonight. Everyday Fantasy just coming through with some major prop action. Appreciate you leaving some good ones for us to take a look at, Mr. Everyday Fantasy. So Royce O'Neal, 50% hit rate in the last 10 games. When we isolate to the last 5 at 4.5, 60% hit rate. And to my man's point, 4 games, 3 out of 4. And the one game that he ended up going under on 421, we would have lost by the hook at 4.5 rebounds. The hook, by the way, that little 0.5 that hangs on the end of your player props, that's the hook. And the hook likes to stand in your way sometimes. And so if he was at 4.5 rebounds on 421 and you took the over, you would have lost by the hook. So a 75% hit rate for him in this series so far against Dallas. When we take a look at all his games against Dallas, regular season and postseason, total of 8 games to look at, he has hit the over on 4.5 rebounds in 4 of 8, 50%. But again, rebounding much better in this series so far. Royce O'Neal spending time at the power forward position. You got Bogdanovich at the small forward spot. So Royce playing, the bigger forward spot, we'll say. Going up against Dallas, last 7 games as far as rebounds allowed, they're giving up 8.3 rebounds per game, which is the 5th fewest. It's not the easiest matchup on paper, but we've, seen Royce O'Neal achieve in the rebound department versus this Maverick squad. So he needs 5. They're giving up over 8 per game. So there's definitely upside. There's room for him to get it done. Oh boy, hold on. Hold your horses. There we go. Let's get back on track here. Royce O'Neal's projected rebounds, 5.2. He is a betting favorite to go over 4.5 on all your sites out there. Minus 130, minus 175, and minus 134. Tony Dean says, I don't need no hook on this beat. No, I'm sorry, that was Trey Prince that said that. Tony Dean says, how do we do the PrizePicks review for a free entry? I don't know. Reach out to support. Never heard of that one before. Are you talking about reviewing the app to get a free pick? You might want to reach out to support. I don't know. Ain't got nothing to do with me, so I ain't worried about it. But yeah, not sure. Trey Prince, on top of wondering what the hook gonna be, is also astonished to learn that Dwight Powell is up at 4.5 rebounds. Yeah, we talked about how his numbers seemingly go up with Luka Doncic in the lineup. And we just saw Powell at 6.5 rebounds not that long ago. A few games back, he was at 6.5. So maybe we go over on Dwight Powell at 4.5. You guys are thinking, man, Powell at 4.5 is looking kind of light, right? It's looking kind of light. Let's refresh props.cash here and see if we can pull something up for Dwight Powell. Rebounds. Go to Utah, Dallas. Dwight Powell. There we go. There we go. All right. So Luka's back. Luka is definitely back. Dwight Powell at 4.5 rebounds, 70% hit rate in the last 10 games. You know, with Luka being back, Dwight Powell seems to get more run. And like I said, his props and lines and everything seem to go up. We can further confirm this by going Dwight Powell rebounds with Luka Doncic logs include playoffs. See what happens here. Oh, yeah. It's looking better, right? It's looking like there's more hits than misses, especially here recently at 4.5 boards. So like just his last 5 games with Luka, he's hit the over in 4 out of 5. So that's an 80% hit rate. We go back to the previous 5 games. He's hit over. So he's got a 90% hit rate at 4.5 rebounds in the last 10 games with Luka. That's the key here, with Luka. So 80% in the last 5, 90% in the last 10 with Luka Doncic. I think it's worth a shot at 4.5 rebounds. Dwight Peasy. Over 4.5 rebounds. Looking kind of nice. Let's jump ahead here. Let's see how many rebounds this Utah Jazz team's been giving up to opposing centers over the last 7 games. Utah's given up over 12 per game. That is the seventh fewest, but he needs 5 boards. They're giving up over 12 per game. We know he's going to get more minutes when Luka's there. That's typically what happens. So yeah, to think Dwight Powell's hanging out down here at 4.5 rebounds, wondering, who's going to pick me? Pick me. He's projected for 5.1 boards tonight and is a betting favorite at -130 to go over at 4.5. So, yep, it's looking kind of sweet, guys. What other ones are you guys liking here? Reggie Bullock's being mentioned. He's hit the over on his rebound prop in 3 out of 4. So we talked Reggie Bullock for points. Got a 100% hit rate for his points. Looks like a 75% hit rate for his rebounds. So you could possibly consider some Bullock. As far as a projection goes, I'll just pull that one up real quick for you. Got Bullock projected for 5.8 on a prop line of 4.5. And he's a betting favorite to go over. So, yeah, you might want to jump on Dwight Powell because he's probably going to be moving to 5 rebounds soon. Agreed. I'm seeing some Maxey's being mentioned here for rebounds. Let's talk Tyrese Maxey at 3.5 boards. Pulling them up for you. The last 10 games, just a 40% hit rate, but really since the start of these playoffs, Tyrese Maxey's rebounds have gone up. He's hit the over on 3.5 rebounds in 4 straight games, every single game of this Toronto Raptors series. He has recorded at least 4 rebounds or more. 4 being the floor, 9 being the ceiling, and he's had a 6 right in between there. So looking pretty good here with a floor of 4. You say that 10 times fast. With a floor of 4 and a ceiling of 9. I think Tyrese Maxey looks real fine. Bars. Y'all heard them bars. I know you heard them bars. Against Toronto this season at 3.5 rebounds, he has hit the over in 5 out of 8. 63%. Looking kind of sweet. for Tyrese Maxey. Shooting guard spot. Toronto's given up about 5.5 rebounds per game in their last 7 games. So he needs 4. They're giving up over 5 per game. Definitely doable. We've seen him do it time and time again here throughout this playoff series so far. And then Maxey's projected rebounds are at 3.7. He is a betting favorite to go over 3.5. So there you go. Tyrese Maxey, man. Just, go back to it. Hammer that nail again. I'll just pull up a quick projection for you on Marcus Smart points. I don't want to go all the way back and start talking points again, but I have him projected for 14.4. He's a betting favorite on some sites to go over, betting favorite on some sites to go under. So, I mean, it seems like the public's kind of torn, going a couple different ways with Marcus Smart today. But anyway, I think that's about it for rebounds. Don't think I missed anybody else. We talked briefly about Reggie Bullock. We talked about Tyrese Maxey. We talked about Dwight Powell. I think we've covered a lot of these. So we'll skip over to PRA. You guys let me know if you have any PRA props that you're interested in. And we'll take a look at the last 10 games. Who's been hitting at the highest rates? Michael Conley at 20.5 PRA has an 80% hit rate, but we're getting him at 19.5 today on PrizePicks. So a little discount, I guess you could say, versus what we're seeing him at on props.cash. So 80% hit rate looking pretty good. Rudy Gobert at 29.5 PRA has hit the over in 70% of his games. He is now at 28.5 over on props.cash. So again, a 1-point value. Joel Embiid at 43.5 PRA. He is not up on the PrizePicks board just yet. Interesting. 43.5 PRA, 60% hit rate. Bruce Brown, 24.5 PRA. Also sporting the 60% hit rate. Bogdanovich, he's at 25.5 on PrizePicks, 60% hit rate for him. Jaylen Brown's also got a 60% hit rate, but that's at 34.5. We're seeing him at 32.5, so that's a 2 PRA difference versus props.cash. Kyrie Irving at 37.5 has a 60% hit rate. We're getting him at 36.5. So a little bit of a discount there. Seems like a lot of these lines over on PrizePicks are lower than what we're seeing here over on props.cash. And then finally, Dorian Finney-Smith is at 18.5 on most of your sports books, 60% hit rate. And then he's at 17.5 today over on PrizePicks. King United's liking Bruce Brown more for fantasy than his PRA. I mean, what we could do in this situation is just go Bruce, pull up his PRA here. He's 4 out of his last 5. His fantasy, also 4 out of his last 5. Guys, he's hitting the PRA at the same exact hit rates over the last 5. So PRA fantasy, you could go either way on Bruce Brown. Want to talk PRA for Brucey B? Let's do it. So we talked about him at 24.5 PRA with his nice 60% hit. Let's pull him up on props.cash here and see what's good. What's really good. What's really, really good with Brucey B from Brooklyn. Last 10 games for Bruce Brown, he's hit the over in 6 out of 10, 60% hit rate at 24.5. Last 5 especially, 80%. Looking like a lot of green. 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5, sweet. Against Boston this season, he's 4 for 6 at hitting the over at 24.5. Averaging 23.7 versus the Celtics. So, not doing so great in terms of average, but, in this series so far, he's getting the job done. Jumping ahead, looking at the small forward spot, we're going to sort by team. Boston's given up about 23 points, about 6 boards. We'll call that 29 PRA plus 5 assists on top of that. About 34 to 35 PRA given up by Boston to small forwards. He needs 25. They're giving up about 35. So definitely doable. Go on to the PRA projection for Bruce Brown. Got him projected for 26.2. That's more than 24.5. And he's a betting favorite, minus 125 to go over. So there's Bruce Brown, PRA. You can go PRA or fantasy, both of them looking kind of nice. Aaron Rodgers, what's up, brother? What other PRA props are you guys feeling right now? Let me know. So far, the only one I'm seeing is Bruce Brown. It's the only one you guys want to talk about. Kevin is talking about some Jaylen Brown for fantasy. Let's look at Jaylen Brown real quick. Jaylen Brown's fantasy score is at 39. Pull up these game logs for him. He's hit the over on 39 fantasy in 3 out of his last 5. He is now 2 for 3 in this series of going over. Let's just compare that to his PRA. So 3 out of 5 on fantasy. Yeah, fantasy is definitely better for Jaylen Brown than the PRA. So if you're going to go one way or the other, I'd probably recommend going Jaylen Brown for fantasy score. So you guys want to see a projection for Jaylen Brown's fantasy? I will get you that. Give me just a moment. But first, let's see how many fantasy points per game that Brooklyn's given up to shooting guards over the last 7 games. They're giving up exactly 44. He needs 39.1. So definitely some upside there. Brooklyn giving up what is about the 8th most fantasy points per game to shooting guards. A projection for Jaylen Brown, I got him projected for 44.6. 44.6 fantasy points on Fantasy Labs. He's got a rating of 90.5 out of 100. That's a very strong rating, by the way. So he's, about 5 to 6 fantasy points different on Fantasy Labs versus PrizePicks. So there you go. I wouldn't mind you taking the over on Jaylen Brown fantasy. I like the fantasy more than I like the PRA. We looked a little bit at some Siakam. Aaron, we looked at Siakam's assist at 5.5. I thought those looked pretty doable without Fred VanVleet. Ricky, you're wanting to take a look at Tatum. Let's first determine, would we rather go Tatum PRA or would we rather go Tatum for fantasy? So Tatum PRA is 3 for 5. Tatum's fantasy, 2 for 5. So we'd probably want to go more for the PRA for Tatum, just based on the hit rates in the last 5 games. So we'll start with that, right? We'll start there. Let's pull Jason Tatum up real quick. Last 10 games for Tatum at 42.5 PRA, 50% hit rate. Against Brooklyn this season at 42.5, 43% hit rate. But in the last 4 games against Brooklyn, he's hit the over in 3 out of 4, 75% hit rate. He is 67% in this series against Brooklyn so far. He had 43 in game 1, fell off in game 2 with just 35, and then came back strong with 50 PRA in game 3. Let's go take a look at the minutes and stuff here for Tatum and see kind of what happened in game 2. So game 1, he played about 45 minutes. Game 2, his minutes went down by a few at 41. And then game 3, he had 44. So if he gets 44 minutes, it seems like he also hits at a nice clip. His field goal attempts, 18, 16, and 29. He shot 29 times in game 3. Sheesh. So his field goal attempts were definitely down in the game that he missed. And he shot just 5 for 16 in game 2. 31%. So had a bad shooting game in that one. That was, largely to blame. Ended up with just 19 points in that game due to a bad shooting night. His rebounds were actually up. So if his points would have been there, man, I think he would have hit the over for sure. His assists were definitely there too in game 2. So really, it just came down to him having a bad shooting night. 5 for 16 with 31%. Had he been closer to like 8 to 16, maybe he gets a little closer to getting there, but still would have probably been a little bit short. If we tack on like another 6 points, he ends up with like 41 PRA. So he would have need to, had about 4 more shots go in for him. Maybe a couple of those being threes or something, but. Anyway, we blame that under in game 2 to a bad shooting night. Less minutes, less field goal attempts, and a poor field goal percentage for Jason Tatum. So he just needs to shoot the ball better. The rebounds and the assists are definitely there for him, as they were in game 2. In terms of PRA allowed by Brooklyn, to small forwards in the last 7 games. They're giving about 25 points, about 6 rebounds, so that's like 31, plus about 8 assists, that's like 39. So he's going to be right there in the mix again. Pending his shots are falling, he should be right in the mix. Projected for 48.3 PRA. We're getting a soft line here at 42.5. He is projected for 48.3. So, I mean, right there, you're getting about a 6 PRA difference. And then we're seeing his PRA line at 43.5 on some sites, 44.5 on other sites. So, yeah, some value at 42.5. That is definitely a soft line. So there you go. Trade Prince. Be careful on that OG Anunoby, man. He's good without Barnes, but without Fred VanVleet, I mean, I don't know. You might want to dig into that one a little bit more. Aaron Rodgers is saying that Luka over PRA is easy money. I'm seeing OG 25.5 PRA. Curious to see what it looks like without Fred VanVleet. Donovan Mitchell for PRA. We got a lot of different ones coming in here. Let's look at some of these. Start with that one mentioned by Nathan. He wants to know about some Donovan Mitchell PRA. First of all, let's see if he's a better fantasy score guy or PRA guy. His PRA is 3 for 5. His fantasy score also 3 for 5, but the 3 for 5, he didn't hit the fantasy score in the same games that he hit the PRA. So kind of interesting. So he is 2 for 3 in this series in covering. I'm sorry, take that back. He is now 3 for 4 in this series in covering his PRA. He's 3 for 4 covering a fantasy score too. Shoot. Well, kind of weird. I guess you could go either way. I mean, it's just purely based on hit rates. 75% on the PRA and the fantasy score. But again, he hit those in different games. So one of those very rare situations where the PRA and the fantasy scores have the same hit rates but don't correlate the same. So you're asking, I guess, about Mitchell for PRA. We'll just stick to looking at that in this case. You're getting Mitchell at 38.5. He is at 39.5 according to PropStatCash. So make sure you bump him down to 38.5. When we do bump him down, not a whole lot changes in terms of his hit rate. He is still 4 for 10. The last 5 games for Mitchell, we'll take out this one against Phoenix. I mean, he missed there, but he's 3 for his last 5. In this series, he is 3 for 4, like we talked about. Against Dallas this season, at 38.5 PRA, he has hit the over in 63% of his games, so that's a pretty strong hit rate. Has shown an ability to hit at home or on the road, so he doesn't really care where he's playing all that much. In this series so far, though, he's hit in Dallas in both games. At home, he is 1 for 2. So they will be playing in Dallas today. So maybe he continues his strong hit rate ways in Dallas tonight. 44 in game 1, 41 in game 2. 2 for 2 against Dallas in Dallas in this series. So again, they're going to be playing in Dallas again tonight. So maybe you fire him back up for an over. As far as PRA allowed in the last 7 by the Mavs, 26.2 points plus 4 rebounds. That's already over 30 PRA, plus another 34, or plus another 4 assists. So about 34, 35 PRA. And again, he needs 39. So might be tough. Might be a tough ask, but we have seen him get it done against this squad here in the series so far. He is projected for a healthy 42.7 PRA. And we're seeing his prop line at 38.5 on some sites, but also at 39.5 on other sites. Now at 38.5, he's a betting favorite to go under. At 39.5, a bigger betting favorite to go under. So they're not showing a lot of faith in Donovan Mitchell tonight, despite the nice, favorable projection he's getting. Yeah, Jeremiah, I think Dwight Powell for rebounds is going to be in play. His PRA with Luka in the lineup, just everything tends to go up for Dwight Powell with Luka in the mix. So I think Powell's going to be a fine play. Duncan wants to know, is there any interest in OG Anunoby over 25.5 PRA? I'm curious to see what it looks like without Fred VanVleet. Well, thanks for the question. And I think a lot of people are going to be curious about what happens with some of these Toronto Raptors with Fred VanVleet being out. So let's take a look at that. Let's pull Anunoby up. His PRA is sitting up at 25.5. Seems pretty low. Seems doable. This season, he's hit the over on 25.5 PRA in 48% of his games. Decent. We wish it was over 50. Now let's take Fred VanVleet out, see what happens here. Games without Fred VanVleet. His hit rate at 25.5. Just 33%. Decent sample size too. 6 games, 2 for 6. Is there a better way potentially to play OG Anunoby? What about his points? 50%. I take that back. 33% at 17.5 points. Not looking great. What about his rebounds? Does he benefit without Fred VanVleet? 33% there. Not great. What about his assists at 2.5? 33% there too. What about his three-point makes? Maybe there's silver lining here. You know, we got to find something that he excels at. 50% hit rate without Fred VanVleet. So it's looking pretty ugly for OG Anunoby across the board, man. What about blocks and steals? Is that the move? 50% hit rate. Nothing is jumping out at me. He doesn't have some absurd hit rate in any single stat player prop category without Fred VanVleet this season. So maybe you consider some unders. I don't know. It's the playoffs. Weird shit's happening around here lately. So yeah, I don't think any of these particular props for Anunoby look great. Can I do that for Siakam? Sure. I could do that for Siakam. For you, buddy, anything. And I mean anything. No, I don't mean anything. But yes, we'll look at Siakam without Fred VanVleet for you. Let's take Fred VanVleet out of there. All right, starting with Pascal Siakam at 23.5 points. 23.5 points without Fred VanVleet, 73% hit rate. So I think that looks good. 11 for 15. We rock with that, right? 73% on the points. What about his total rebounds? 8.5, 47%. Nah, bruh. Nah. Assists, we looked at those, 67%. So far his points look like they benefit the most without VanVleet. Then the assists, then the rebounds, right? That's how we're ranking them. What about the PRA? At 37.5 without VanVleet, 53%. I don't know about that. Blocks and steals at 2. Might push. But yeah, I mean, so far the leading candidate probably going to be the points at 23.5 with the 73% hit rate. Points or assists, right? What about free throw makes in those games? We could look at those too. Free throw attempts and makes. So 5.5 looks like a pretty sharp number. Most of these games, I mean, he went over in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He hit the over on in 7 out of 15. So his free throw makes aren't looking particularly nice. I would say that his points would be the move, or his assists. You go points or assists in this case. Cool. Chad Norton's asking about another Utah Jazz guy, a guy that really doesn't probably get enough respect or love, especially not in this series or on these live streams. Jordan Clarkson at 19.5 PRA. Let's talk about Clarkson. Had himself a strong game last game. A strong game. Do we have anything up for Clarkson, though? Let me look. Doesn't look like they've got anything loaded up for Clarkson just yet. Let's refresh Props.Cash. Try this. Try this again. There we go. There he is. So you're wanting to look at Clarkson for PRA. This season, he's hit the over on 19.5 PRA in 63% of his games. The last 10 at 19.5, 60%. Versus Dallas at 19.5, 63%. In this series, he is 2 for 4, 50%. He can get it done. You know, for him, it's a lot of his PRA is obviously going to be scoring dependent. Definitely a scoring dependent type of guy. And then a projection for Jordan Clarkson, I would say, well, we don't have one. That's what I would say. Let me refresh. Maybe we've got one now. There we go. He's projected for 20.7 PRA. So that's an over, but at 19.5 looks like a slight betting favorite early on to go under. Yeah, Dominic, we talked about Bruce Brown's PRA. I think that looks good. We liked his points. I think his rebounds look good. What about Trent? What about Gary Trent? He's hit the PRA in 2 for 5. He's hit the fantasy in 2 for 5. So not really seeing any strong hit rates that favor PRA over fantasy or vice versa. I think we already talked about his points, Gary Trent's points. Without Fred VanVleet, I think looks like a pretty good look. Let's just look at all the prop categories for Gary Trent without Fred VanVleet. So at 18.5 points this season, he's hit the over in 63% of his games. His rebounds are at 2.5 without VanVleet. 25% hit rate, so nothing too great about that. PRA is at 23.5, 56% hit rate. So far the points are leading the way. And let's go back to the points, because when you pull up the points on Props.Cash, you scroll down and look at the free throw attempts. At 2.5 free throw makes, he's actually hit the over in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. He's 13 of 16 at hitting the over on 2.5 free throw makes. 13 out of 16 hitting the over at 2.5 free throw makes without Fred VanVleet. So maybe the free throw makes are the sneaky way to go on Gary Trent Jr. 13 out of 16. That's actually the highest hit rate out of anything we've looked at. The points, the PRA, the rebounds, etc., etc. 13 out of 16 games without Fred VanVleet over 2.5 free throw makes. You're welcome. Hopefully it hits, but it looks good. 13 out of 16 hit rate. We love that. Let's look at Al Horford's PRA. We'll make that the last one. Horford PRA is at 20.5. I see a couple folks asking about Al Horford. So you ask and you shall receive. Let's pull them up here. Last 10 games for Big Al at 20.5. He's got a 70% hit rate. We got to remember, Robert Williams is back. Right? Robert Williams is back. We're not sure how many minutes he's going to play, but I think I heard that he's going to be on some sort of minutes limit or restriction. Maybe 20 to 25 in that range. So I don't know how he's going to jam things up here for Al Horford at 20.5. So just remember that. Keep that in mind. Robert Williams, I think, is supposed to be back tonight, right? And we don't know how many minutes he's going to play. But yeah, Al Horford in the last 10 games, 7 for 10. 71% against Brooklyn this season. So very strong hit rates against Brooklyn. Oh, he came back Saturday. There you go. And they're looking to ramp his minutes up. There you go. That's what it is. Okay. So he's already back, but they're looking to ramp his minutes up tonight. So yeah, I would just be careful playing Al Horford. I mean, he only had 9 PRA in his last game. I don't know if you guys are talking over or under on Horford. You guys are saying Horford PRA. Trey Prince is saying under on Horford at 20.5 PRA. Gotcha. Yeah. So there you go. Brooklyn giving up a healthy amount of PRA to power forwards at 21.5, 10 rebounds, 31.5, plus 2 assists. Call it like 33 to 34 PRA given up. And then Horford is projected for 22.1 PRA. He is a betting favorite to go over at 20.5. So he's still projected to go over. But again, I don't think that takes into account that Robert Williams' minutes will be increased. Sounds like they're going to be increased. So that could possibly cut into Al Horford's productivity, so to speak. So let's move on from the PRA. We've like hammered PRA and fantasy score pretty heavily, I think. 3-point makes. Any 3-point make props that you guys want me to look at? Let me know. Shout them out. Shout them out. We got Bruce Brown, Kyrie Irving, Reggie Bullock, all at 70%. Mike Conley Jr., Dorian Finney-Smith, Danny Green, Gary Trent Jr., all at 60%. Siakam, Maxey, Durant, Harris, all at 50%. So you guys let me know which 3-point make props you guys are liking. Jaden, I think it was the points. It was the points for Siakam that had the highest hit rate without Fred VanVleet. Then his assists. Siakam had the highest hit rates in his points, then his assists. So those would probably be the top 2 ways to play Siakam, if you want. Durant, you're asking about Dorian Finney-Smith's 3-point makes at 2. You're wanting to take the over, it sounds like. Let's look at my man, Dorian Finney-Smith, with Luka Doncic back in the mix. We'll see what he's done this series so far against the Utah Jazz. Just looking at the last 5 games here for Dorian Finney-Smith at 2 3-point makes. He's hit 2 or more in 5 straight games. So that's looking nice. Against Utah this season at 2. In the last 6 games against Utah, including regular season games, he has hit 2 or more threes against the Jazz in 6 out of 7. 6 straight. So that's looking really good. Maybe you end up in a tie or a push, but yeah. And then when you isolate just the home games against the Utah Jazz this season, filter out just the home games, he's hit 2 or more in every home game against Utah. So, yeah, I don't mind you taking a shot on Dorian Finney-Smith. It's looking good. It's looking real nice. Power forwards against the Jazz in the last 7 games. Jazz are giving up over 4 3-point makes per game to power forwards in the last 7. So Dorian Finney-Smith needs at least 2 to tie, to push. Three would be more ideal, though. So I would definitely be leaning toward the over on Dorian Finney-Smith in his 3-point makes. And then a projected 3-point make for him is 2.8. At 2.5, it looks like the betting public smashing the under at minus 150. So in this case, I don't mind you taking the over on Dorian Finney-Smith at 2. Could tie, could push, but yeah, looking really solid. Looking very solid. You guys, Darian and Oscar. We'll just call you Oscar. You guys are asking about his teammate, Reggie Bullock, in this case. We've already talked about Reggie Bullock for points at 10.5. That looked good. Reggie Bullock's rebounds also look kind of nice. Another way to play Reggie Bullock. If the first two ways weren't to your liking, maybe you play Reggie Bullock for threes. We could go here too. Reggie Bullock's last 10 games, 70%. Last 5 games, 80% against Utah. He has covered his 3-point prop in 5 straight games and 6 out of 7 overall, an 86% hit rate. Home games, he is 3 for 4 this season. Away games, 3 for 3. So, he looks like another guy in a really strong spot. Let me ask you, chat. Do you prefer Dorian Finney-Smith at 2 3-point makes? Or do you prefer Reggie Bullock at 2.5? I'm taking the over, or I think we should be taking the over on both of them. But which one do you like more out of the two? Both doable. Both could hit. But the question is, which one do you like more? Utah's given up about 2.8 3-point makes to small forwards over the last 7 games. So they're giving up close to 3. He needs 3 to hit the over. I think with the opportunity to potentially tie being on the table with Dorian Finney-Smith, I'd probably have to lean toward Dorian Finney-Smith a little bit more out of the two, if I'm choosing between the two. But Bullock is projected for 3.4. He is a minus 135 to go over at 2.5. Did I say under on both? I'm liking the over on both. My bad. If I said under, I'd be saying things. I'd be saying things sometimes, Darian. You're liking Bullock more. I'm surprised you guys like Bullock more than Dorian Finney-Smith. I kind of like the fact that you can push with Dorian Finney-Smith. But I get it. Clean wins, clean losses with Reggie Bullock. He's either going to, you're going to either win or lose. No push opportunity with Reggie. Any other 3-point props that you guys are liking, though? Hit me with them. This dude right here has not been hitting his threes at a very good clip. I wish he was still at like 3 or 3.5. I'd be taking the under. Drew Brees says, nah, I ain't rocking with that 0.5 on Reggie Bullock. Well, then, you got this dude right here. He's a pusher better in 5 straight games, so I'd probably be the one. Seth Curry, has seen a couple people ask about him. Let's look at Seth Curry sitting out there at exactly 2. A smooth 2 3-point makes. How we looking, gang? Can somebody update me on the likes, man? Are we at 100 yet? How close are we? We're probably a long way off, aren't we? I got a feeling we are a long way off that goal of 100 or more likes. Something in my spirit ain't sitting right. Something in my spirit's telling me that we're falling short today, brothers and sisters, and that we're going to need us a few more likes to hit that over at 99.5. 61, Lord, help me. I was afraid of that. 60, oh Lord, it went down 1. God help us all. It ain't looking good for the likes. Seth Curry at 2 3-point makes. 59, 70. The numbers are just changing. Seth Curry at 2 3-point makes. In the last, what are we looking at here? Last 10 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 out of 10. At 2 3-point makes or better. So 80% hit rate. Versus Boston this season. Now, this is dating back to when he was with the 76ers. He's now with the Brooklyn Nets. But this goes back to when he was with the 76ers. But even still, considering those games as well, he's hit 2 or more 3-point makes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of 8. 7 of 8. That's not bad. That's not bad. In this series so far, he has hit the 2 or more 3-point makes in 2 out of 3. So we'll call that, 67%? Technically, he's had 1 under, 1 push, and 1 over in this series against Boston. So I guess we lean toward the over and hope for the best. I guess that's the move. Shooting guards against the Celtics. Celtics giving up the 3rd fewest 3-point makes in the last 7 games at just 2.4. So on paper, the matchup not looking like the move. It's not looking like the move. It's looking tough. He is at 2.5 out on your favorite sports books. Big minus 195 right now to go under 2.5. Minus 195 to go under 2.5. I guess you lean toward the over, but it's really looking like setting up for a push or a tie for Seth Curry. Appreciate you guys running those likes up, man. Appreciate that. Jojo Rabbit says Elon Musk is about to buy Twitter. Is it like actually about to happen? Wow. Huge news, if true. Huge news. All right, let's move it along here. Free throw makes. Listen, I think we found us a gem right here. Without Fred VanVleet, 13 to 16? Something like that. Going for 3 or more free throw makes. I think that's definitely worth a look. Any of these other ones standing out? Jason Tatum has hit the over on his free throw makes in 3 straight games, all 3 games in this series. 3 straight, 3 for 3 against Brooklyn. So maybe you go back to Tatum. What about KD? What have you been up to? Oh, well, that's not looking good. 1 for 3 against Boston this series. How about Jaylen Brown? 2 for 3? All right, maybe he's worth a look. He barely gets over when he does. Kyrie Irving, this man's fasting. His caloric intake, it's non-existent. Maybe he needs some calories in his body to save his team from elimination tonight. Pascal Siakam, 2 out of 3. I'm sorry. Take it back. 2 out of 4. 2 out of 4 this series. We looked at his free throw makes without Fred VanVleet this season. Didn't look particularly great. Joel Embiid, he was a go-to for me when it came to free throw makes. I don't know what's up with Embiid the last couple of games. Maybe the injury, the thumb ligament, is hampering him. So I can't trust him. We already talked about this guy. You already know the drill. James Harden, he's hit the over against Toronto in this series. 1 for 4. Maybe he tries to take on a bigger scoring load. Donovan Mitchell, 3 for 4 so far this series. I think he could be a good free throw prop to consider. Luka. Looks good for the last 5. He is 0 for 1 in the 1 game that he played against Utah. So it would be cool to see Luka get a little bit more aggressive and find the free throw line. Never really feel great about Rudy Gobert free throw makes. Jalen Brunson, even with Luka back, has a 4 for 4 hit rate now against Utah in this series. So Jalen Brunson's going to be solid. Solid. Blocks and steals. You know how I feel about these, man. These are a crapshoot. These are really just volatile. I don't play a whole lot of them. I don't advise that you do either, unless you just really want to roll the dice on something. But, yeah. And then you got Luka up there at a double-double. We know Luka, he is a triple-double threat anytime he steps on the floor. So Luka, as far as a double-double prop is concerned, most of the time I'd probably be leaning toward the over on Luka on a double-double, because we know he could get it in the points category. That's pretty much a given. But He can also rack up 10 assists. He could also rack up 10 rebounds. He's got triple-double upside every time he steps on the court. So I would say that Luka Doncic double-double, probably a good play, being that he's got 3 lanes or 3 avenues, right? Points, rebounds, and assists. He's got 3 different ways that he can get to that double-double. So be considering him as a double-double over tonight. Otherwise, that's it, man. That is it. About 2 hours later, man, we have tackled a majority of this PrizePicks board. I hope the information in today's live stream leads you to some profits tonight. Money Making Monday here on PrizePicks. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have not hit the like button yet, hit it on your way out. There's still time to do that. Appreciate all the likes, of course. The goal is always 99.5. I'm always taking the over. I believe in you guys. Without you, there is no me. So let's pay it forward, man. Hit that like button on your way out and have yourself a good night tonight if you're deciding to play some player props. Otherwise, until next time, peace.